The Presidents of the United States. 1. George Washington, 1789 to 1797. Known as the father of his country, George Washington was the commanding general of the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War and the first U.S. president. He established crucial precedents, ensured a peaceful transition of power, and helped found the National Bank. He remains an iconic figure in American history, appearing on the U.S. dollar bill and the quarter.
2. John Adams, 1797 to 1801. A key founding father and the first vice president, John Adams was a leading advocate for independence. As president, he successfully navigated a potential war with France through diplomacy, preserving the young nation's neutrality.
3. Thomas Jefferson, 1801 to 1809. The principal author of the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson's presidency is most noted for the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, which doubled the size of the United States. He championed agrarian democracy and minimized the federal government's role. 4. James Madison, 1809 through 1817. Often called the Father of the Constitution for his pivotal role in drafting the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. He led the nation during the War of 1812 against Great Britain. 5. James Monroe, 1817 to 1825. His presidency marked the era of good feelings, a period of relative national unity. He is famous for the Monroe Doctrine, a foreign policy that opposed European colonialism in the Americas.
6. John Quincy Adams, 1825 to 1829. The son of John Adams, he was a brilliant diplomat and advocated for modernization and internal improvements, though he struggled to build a strong political base during his single term.
7. Andrew Jackson, 1829 to 1837. A war hero known as Old Hickory, Jackson championed the common man and founded the modern Democratic Party. He dismantled the Second Bank of the United States, but also faced criticism for his forced removal of Native Americans, the Trail of Tears. 8. Martin Van Buren, 1837 to 1841. The first president born a U.S. citizen. His predecessors were born as British subjects. His presidency was dominated by the economic panic of 1837. 9. William Henry Harrison, 1841. A military general who died just 31 days into office from pneumonia, delivering the shortest presidency in U.S. history. 10. John Tyler, 1841 to 1845. The first vice president to assume the presidency after a president's death. He successfully pushed for the annexation of Texas in 1845, a move that set the stage for further westward expansion. 11. James K. Polk, 1845 to 1849. A decisive president who oversaw the Mexican-American War and significantly expanded U.S. territory, achieving much of what is considered the contiguous United States boundaries.
12. Zachary Taylor, 1849 to 1850. A national war hero from the Mexican-American War who died of a stomach ailment just over a year into his term. 13. Millard Fillmore, 1850 to 1853. He signed the Compromise of 1850, a controversial package of laws that temporarily eased tensions over the issue of slavery and open trade with Japan.
14. Franklin Pierce, 1853 to 1857. His support for the Kansas-Nebraska Act exacerbated sectional divisions and helped fuel the eventual Civil War. He oversaw the Gadsden Purchase. 15. James Buchanan, 1857 to 1861. Widely considered one of the worst presidents, he failed to prevent the secession of Southern states leading up to the Civil War.
Number 16. Abraham Lincoln, 1861 to 1865. Widely regarded as one of America's greatest presidents, Lincoln led the Union to victory in the Civil War and issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which led to the abolition of slavery. He was assassinated shortly after the war ended. Number 17. Andrew Johnson, 1865 to 1869. Lincoln's vice president, he clashed frequently with the Republican-controlled Congress over Reconstruction policies and was the first president to be impeached. He was acquitted by 1 vote. Number 18. Ulysses S. Grant, 1869 to 1877. The Union's top general during the Civil War, Grant's presidency focused on Reconstruction and fighting against the Ku Klux Klan. His administration was marred by numerous scandals. Number 19. Rutherford B. Hayes, 1877 to 1881. His election was highly disputed, resolved by a compromise that ended Reconstruction by withdrawing federal troops from the South. Number 20. James A. Garfield, 1881. Advocated for civil service reform but was assassinated just 6 months into his term.
21. Chester A. Arthur, 1881 to 1885. A product of the corrupt political machine system, he surprisingly became a reformer after Garfield's assassination, signing the landmark Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act. 22. and 24. Grover Cleveland, 1885 to 1889 and 1893 to 1897. The only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. He was known for his integrity and efforts to limit government spending and intervention. 23. Benjamin Harrison, 1889 to 1893. Grandson of William Henry Harrison, he signed the Sherman Antitrust Act and expanded the U.S. Navy. 25. William McKinley, 1897 to 1901. Led the U.S. to victory in the Spanish-American War, making America a global power. He was assassinated early in his second term. 26. Theodore Roosevelt, 1901 to 1909. The youngest person to become president, at age 42, he was a champion of the square deal domestic policy, which included trust-busting, conservation efforts, expanding national parks, and consumer protection. 27. William Howard Taft, 1909 to 1913. Roosevelt's hand-picked successor, he was a cautious conservative who later served as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the only person to hold both offices. 28. Woodrow Wilson, 1913 to 1921. Led the U.S. during World War I and was a leading architect of the League of Nations, though the U.S. ultimately did not join. 29. Warren G. Harding, 1921 to 1923. Promoted a return to normalcy after World War I. His presidency was known for scandal, and he died in office. 30. Calvin Coolidge, 1923 to 1929. Known as Silent Cal, He favored small government and laissez-faire economics during the prosperous Roaring Twenties. 31. Herbert Hoover, 1929 to 1933. An engineer and humanitarian, he led the nation during the onset of the Great Depression and was widely blamed for its severity. 32. Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1933 to 1945. The only president elected to 4 terms, FDR led the country out of the Great Depression with his New Deal programs and guided the U.S. to victory in most of World War II. 33. Harry S. Truman, 1945 to 1953. Succeeded FDR and made the difficult decision to use atomic bombs to end World War II. He initiated the Truman Doctrine, marking the beginning of the Cold War. 34. Dwight D. Eisenhower, 1953 to 1961. A 5-star general who commanded Allied forces in Europe during World War II. As president, he initiated the creation of the vast interstate highway system. 35. John F. Kennedy, 1961 to 1963. The youngest person ever elected president, he inspired the nation with his New Frontier programs and set the goal to land a man on the moon. He was assassinated in Dallas, Texas.
36. Lyndon B. Johnson, 1963 to 1969. Assumed office after JFK's assassination. He enacted the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Great Society programs, but his presidency was increasingly defined by the escalation of the Vietnam War. 37. Richard Nixon, 1969 to 1974. Ended U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War and opened diplomatic relations with China. He is the only president to resign from office due to the Watergate scandal. 38. Gerald Ford, 1974 to 1977. Appointed vice president and then became president after Nixon's resignation. He controversially pardoned Nixon in an effort to heal the nation. 39. Jimmy Carter, 1977 to 1981. A peanut farmer and former governor of Georgia, he is known for brokering the Camp David Accords between Egypt and Israel. His single term was plagued by economic woes and the Iran hostage crisis. He later won the Nobel Peace Prize for his humanitarian work. 40. Ronald Reagan, 1981 to 1989. A former actor and governor of California, Reagan implemented Reaganomics, tax cuts and reduced government spending, and took a hard line against the Soviet Union, playing a key role in ending the Cold War. 41. George H.W. Bush, 1989 to 1993. Reagan's vice president, he led a successful coalition to victory in the Gulf War. 42. Bill Clinton, 1993 to 2001. Presided over the longest peacetime economic expansion in American history and signed the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. He was impeached by the House of Representatives on charges related to a personal scandal, but acquitted by the Senate. 43. George W. Bush, 2001 to 2009. Son of George H.W. Bush, his presidency was largely defined by the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks and the subsequent wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. 44. Barack Obama, 2009 to 2017. The first African-American president, he passed the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, a major healthcare reform, and authorized the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. 45 and 47, Donald Trump, 2017 to 2021, 2025 to present. A real estate mogul and reality television star, he enacted significant tax cuts and appointed 3 conservative Supreme Court justices during his first term. He is the only president to be impeached twice and the second to serve non-consecutive terms. He began his second non-consecutive term in January 2025. 46. Joe Biden, 2021 to 2025. A longtime senator and vice president under Barack Obama, Biden's presidency focused on combating the COVID-19 pandemic's effects, infrastructure legislation, and social spending. He passed the American Rescue Plan Act,